I'm okay. I'm not as okay as that guy up there who's been up for...
It's May 2017, and Sig Hansen, the face of Discovery Channel's Deadliest Catch for 20 years, is on his knees in his own driveway getting handcuffed after spitting on an Uber driver and kicking a dent into his car over $100 in cash. Flash forward to right now, and that same man is on primetime television talking about protecting his throne, while fans beg him not to retire. Picture the wholesome Discovery Channel version of Sig Hansen, Norwegian sea legend, survived a heart attack on live television.
All right, Edgar, you win.
I think I'm starting to zonk.
Mentor to half the fleet, the kind of guy Hallmark would cast if Hallmark made movies about frostbite. Now picture court records, a civil lawsuit alleging he sexually abused his own toddler daughter, a criminal conviction for assaulting that rideshare driver while drunk, a former crew member suing him after an alleged medical failure led to a cancer diagnosis. That's also Sig Hansen. Same guy, same decade, different paper trail. Only one of those guys ever made it onto your television.
I'm real happy about the whole thing, but I agree.
Today, we're finding out what happened to the other one and why an entire fan base decided he didn't exist. Sigurd Johnny Hansen was born in 1966 in Ballard, Seattle's old Norwegian fishing quarter, to immigrant parents who fought so hard over which grandfather to name him after.
So the last time Sig fished bear was about 22 years ago.
That they just used both. Sverre and Jakob. Somewhere, a family reunion got a lot less awkward because of that compromise. His dad, Sverre, was a pioneering king crab fisherman who bought the boat that would eventually make his son famous.
Hard to recover.
Sig was on that boat commercially at 14, back when the average American 14-year-old's biggest occupational hazard was a locker combination. By 22, he was relief captain. By 26, full captain, one of the youngest to ever run a Bering Sea crab boat. Most guys peak at 26 with a fantasy football championship. Sig peaked by commanding a vessel in one of the deadliest jobs on the planet, out of Dutch Harbor, Alaska, the same port that would eventually become the show's operational home base.
This is not good. This is really not good. We got all our gear on the boat.
Then in 2005, Discovery Channel shows up wanting to film a documentary about crab fishing, and Sig's honest first reaction is that the whole idea sounds insane. Executive producer Tom Beers, through his company Original Productions, had been pitching the idea of embedding cameras on working fishing vessels in some of the worst conditions on Earth. Somebody talks Sig into it anyway, and Deadliest Catch becomes one of the biggest hits the network's ever had, alongside captains like the late Phil Harris of the Cornelia Marie, with Sig as its emotional center from day one. Mike Rowe's narration would eventually become the voice audiences associated with every near-death moment, turning the whole thing into something closer to a nature documentary than a reality show.
Yeah!
He doesn't just captain a boat, he builds a dynasty. Brothers Edgar and Norman crew for him. Daughter Mandy works her way up to relief captain. Jake Anderson starts as his deckhand before getting his own boat, essentially graduating from Sig Hansen University with a degree in not dying at sea.
He's taking a couple pots off! His back's out!
The Northwestern was also one of the first vessels in the fleet to pursue opilio crab, snow crab, which would eventually become just as central to the show's fishing seasons as the king crab runs everyone remembers from the early episodes. For a solid decade, the story writes itself. Immigrant family, dangerous job, telegenic near-death experiences. America eats it up like it's the only crab left in the pot. But every dynasty's got a basement, and Sig's had a lot more in it than frozen king crab. This next part isn't a joke, so we're not going to make one. In 1990, during a bitter divorce, Sig's ex-wife accused him of sexually abusing their 2-year-old daughter. A doctor at Harborview Medical Center examined the child and documented findings she called strongly suggestive of abuse. A 1992 custody trial ultimately found no abuse occurred. Sig kept limited, supervised contact for a while, then relinquished his parental rights entirely in 1993. On paper, that's where the story ends. It didn't end there. That daughter, Melissa Ekstrom, grew up to become a family law attorney in Seattle. In May 2016, the same year her father had his famous on-camera heart attack, she filed a new civil lawsuit saying she'd recovered memories of the abuse and had battled depression, eating disorders, and suicidal thoughts because of it. Sig's response was not measured. He called the lawsuit an old-fashioned shakedown and accused his ex-wife and daughter of trying to extort him. Prosecutors in Snohomish County reviewed the old case materials the following spring and declined to file criminal charges, saying it fell outside their charging standards.
I always seem to manage, to work it to the bone and to the end. This one's no different.
That matters. This was never a criminal case, but the civil side kept moving. In July 2018, a Washington Court of Appeals panel ruled the trial could proceed because Melissa herself had never technically been a party to the 1992 case, so that old ruling couldn't shield her father from a new one. Sig said he'd appeal to the state Supreme Court.
Where's Mandy?
What happened after that petition is genuinely unclear in the public record, which says something on its own about how these stories quietly disappear once the show keeps airing. To be clear, no criminal charges were ever filed, and the ultimate outcome of the civil case remains unconfirmed.
I'm going around the clock. I don't care.
But a court allowing your own daughter's abuse claim in front of a jury is not a footnote, and it never once made it into a Deadliest Catch episode. May 2017, Sig celebrating Norwegian Constitution Day with his family in Ballard.
And a big swell came in. It was just enough to part the cable.
They call an Uber. The ride gets canceled mid-trip because the family wants to pay cash, which Uber doesn't allow. The driver pulls over to let them out. According to the police report, Sig and his son-in-law spit on the driver's head and the back of his seat, and then Sig gets out and kicks a dent into the car over what amounted to a $100 disagreement. Officers find him at his house a short time later, described in the report as intoxicated and belligerent.
This thing goes down into a trench, and so they like to kind of hang out on the sides.
He initially resists arrest. Before booking him, officers have to remove a $46,000 watch from his wrist because nothing completes a night of spitting on strangers quite like accessorizing the arrest. The next day, Sig releases a statement. Terribly sorry, embarrassed, no excuse, very classy, about 12 hours too late. Here's what Discovery definitely never aired.
Shooting pain in the back, shoulder blades, and arm, and then just falls asleep.
When Sig finally goes to court in 2018, the judge delays sentencing over concerns about his drinking and pulls up a decade-old incident from 2008 in Alaska where an allegedly drunk Sig was accused of punching a man twice in a bar. That's not a rough night. That's a pattern with a paper trail. Sig pleads guilty to the assault, the property destruction charge gets dropped, and he's sentenced to a deferred sentence, mandatory alcohol treatment, a year of probation, and community service. And just when the docket finally goes quiet, a former deckhand named Nick Mavard Jr., who happens to be Jake Anderson's uncle, files a lawsuit in 2020 claiming that delayed medical care during a COVID-era voyage let his appendix rupture, which is how doctors found a cancerous tumor inside him. He's suing Sig's company for over $1 million. Sig's company's move in 2023 is to countersue the production company and the show's own medical contractor, essentially arguing this is everyone's fault, except the family whose name is on the boat. Add it up. A civil abuse suit a court let proceed, a criminal conviction with a documented drinking history stretching back a decade.
Taking Mandy under his wing instead of giving her the full greenhorn treatment.
A lawsuit from his own crew over a cancer scare, all inside a 7-year window. For basically any other reality star, this is the part of the video where we tell you their career quietly ends. Except that's not what happened to Sig at all. Nothing stuck, not even a little. He's still captain of the Northwestern right now. Still on your screen weekly, currently. Somewhere around season 22. While other fleet captains like Keith Colburn and Jonathan Hillstrand became household names alongside him, Sig remained the show's gravitational center, the one whose name ended up on merchandise, spin-offs, and memoirs. Fans still routinely vote him the best captain on the show. People in Parade run warm profiles about his health scares and his stubborn refusal to retire, and somehow the lawsuits never make it into those interviews either. It's like the abuse suit and the arrest got their own separate, unlisted Wikipedia page that only divorce lawyers know about.
Did it right. Damn it. So I can steer to port, I can't steer to starboard.
In October 2025, Sig collapsed on the boat from exhaustion after staying awake for a day and a half on somewhere between 15 and 20 cups of coffee, while still smoking at 59 years old with 2 prior heart attacks behind him. A doctor told him flat out it might be time to retire. Months later, in a People interview, Sig said he doesn't see retiring anytime soon, that there's a little ego involved, and that he doesn't want anybody knocking him off his throne just yet. Sit with that phrasing. A man with a court-approved abuse suit, an assault conviction, and a crew lawsuit over a cancer diagnosis is out here talking about his throne, and the public reaction is concern for his blood pressure, not a single question about his conduct. That's not an accident. That's what 20 years of being the emotional center of a hit show buys you. It's basically main character immunity, except it's real life and the plot armor is made of Nielsen ratings. Meanwhile, his daughter Mandy and son-in-law Clark Pedersen are quietly stepping into bigger roles, which sounds like a succession plan until you remember Sig has said, on the record, that he isn't ready to hand anything over. So even the retirement everyone assumes is coming,
We're gonna give it a try.
remains a rumor Sig actively refuses to confirm 3 seasons running. Financially, he's fine too. Estimates put his net worth somewhere between $4 and $7 million, built off the boat, the show, a memoir, a Pixar voice cameo, and a Norway set spin-off that sent the whole family across the Atlantic for a season of prestige crab tourism. Turns out Scandal doesn't dent your Q rating when your Q rating is built on nearly dying in front of a camera crew. So what actually built Sig Hansen? Not just skill, not just decades on the water, mythology. Immigrant family, brutal job, on-camera near-death experience, wrapped around a guy who's genuinely charming in 12-second sound bites. That mythology turned out strong enough to absorb an abuse lawsuit, a criminal conviction, and a crew lawsuit without a single crack showing on screen.
Him out and do it right, you know, really find out what's going on with him.
Compare that to how reality TV usually operates. Other stars get quietly dropped from a franchise over one bad tweet or one leaked group chat. Sig's got 2 decades of open court records, a guilty plea, and an active lawsuit from his own crew, and he's never had to sit through so much as an uncomfortable press junket about any of it. Deadliest Catch doesn't need to protect him. Its audience already does that job for free every single season. This was never a story about a captain who fell off. It's a story about a captain who never had to. And honestly, that's the scarier version. Somewhere out there, a reality producer just watched this video and took notes.